Hello, everybody. Welcome to our next presentation of Making Sense of Sense. My name is Brooke, and I'm a program coordinator here at Alzheimer's Services. We have one more presentation as a part of this series, which will be held next Tuesday. So I hope y'all can join us for that as well. By attending all three of these presentations, you will receive a free consultation with an elder law attorney. And along with these presentations, I wanted to mention that we always have so many education and support events happening at Alzheimer's Services. Tomorrow we have a lunch and learn, and then throughout, of course, the month we have our care partner support groups. And then in the coming weeks, we have a Arts and Alzheimer's social event, an Adapt series event, and a TLC. So we always have so much stuff going on here. If you're ever curious about what's going on, you can find it on our website with the upcoming events. Or, of course, you could always reach out to us as well. All participants will remain muted throughout this call. And if you have any questions, you can just put them in the chat box and we'll answer those. Either if it's tech support, we'll monitor that throughout the call. Or if it's a question, we will get to that at the question and answer area at the end of the presentation. I also wanted to mention that we will be recording this presentation and it'll be posted on our YouTube channel after the presentation is finished. And I will now introduce our presenter today. That is Miss Emma Quebedeaux. She is a Master of Social Work student at LSU here in Baton Rouge. She has experience in school, community adoption, domestic violence, child welfare, parenting education, and aging. Her interests revolve around trauma, attachment, and relationship issues, where she seeks to provide compassionate support and foster meaningful connections. Emma is committed to supporting vulnerable populations, focusing on child welfare, adoption, and geriatrics. Whether working with families as a whole or focusing on the unique needs of children and older adults, Emma is motivated to make a positive impact and advocate for lasting change in the lives of those that she serves. You may be familiar if you are often around Alzheimer's Services. You may find Emma a little familiar. She has been our intern, our social work intern here throughout the past few months this semester. So we are very excited to have Emma present to us today as a part of this series. And she graduates in just a few days as she'll be an LMSW. So big congrats to her. So I will pass things over to you, Emma.
Thank you. Okay, so today I'm going to be talking about financial literacy and care choices for the journey ahead. Brooke already did my little introduction, so we'll skip this slide. So first thing we will cover today is the importance of this topic and why the basic concepts you need to understand. Then we'll walk through like financial planning, what it is and why it matters as you age. From there, we'll look at advanced care planning, including how to prepare for medical and personal decisions. We'll also cover key documents that put your plan into action. And then next, we'll talk about risk management. And finally, we'll tie it together by showing how it works in real life. All right. So let's first talk about why financial literacy matters as you age. So the aging population is growing rapidly worldwide. According to the US Census Bureau, the number of adults age 65 and older is expected to double by 2060 in the US. As more people live longer, there's an increasing need for clear, pre-established healthcare directives that address what individuals want in terms of medical treatment, life-sustaining interventions, end-of-life care, and their financial choices. And then with increasing expectancy naturally comes ageism, which is a pervasive issue here. So older adults are sometimes perceived as less capable or as individuals nearing the end of their lives. And when people have this perspective that, older adults will die anyway, it makes it easier to dismiss their needs and preferences. So people are living longer than ever before, which means retirement isn't just like a phase of life, it can last up to decades. At the same time, healthcare costs continue to rise, especially when it comes to long-term care, which can quickly drain your savings if you are unprepared. So now, while programs like Social Security and Medicare do provide support, they typically aren't enough to fully cover the cost of living and care over a long retirement. And there's also an increasing risk of financial exploitation. Older adults are often specifically targeted by scams, making awareness and financial confidence essential. And we can't ignore the reality of cognitive decline. As decision making becomes more difficult, having a solid financial plan and trusted systems in place becomes incredibly important. And then lastly, I just want to say that financial literacy isn't just helpful as you age, it's essential for maintaining your independence, security, and peace of mind. All right. So some decision-making roles. These are just going to be some key roles in documents that determine who can act on someone's behalf. So we have a conservator, which is a court-appointed individual who manages someone's finances when that person is no longer able to do so themselves. A guardian is similar, but their role often goes beyond finances to include personal and healthcare decisions. You may also hear the term fiduciary. This refers to anyone who is legally required to act in another person's best financial interest. That can include roles like a trustee or someone acting under the power of attorney. And then a power of attorney is a legal document that allows someone to make financial or legal decisions on your behalf. A durable power of attorney is especially important because it stays in effect even if you become incapacitated. And finally, a healthcare proxy, um, sometimes called a medical power of attorney, gives someone the authority to make decisions for you if you are unable to do so. All right. So it's also important to understand not just how much money we have, but how that money is held and accessed. So an asset is simply anything of monetary value. That could be a house, a car, anything like that. A joint account is a bank account shared by two or more people. This is often used by spouses, but it can also include a trusted family member, like an adult child. One advantage of a joint account is something called survivorship rights. This means that when one account holder passes away, the remaining person automatically takes full ownership of the account. This can make accessing funds much easier during a difficult time without needing to go through the legal processes, which can take a considerable amount of time. Next, we have payable on death and transfer on death. These are both designations you can add to certain financial accounts and assets. These allow you to name a beneficiary who will receive the asset directly when you pass away. These transfers happen outside of probate, which is the legal process of distributing someone's estate, and we'll get more into that later. An annuity is a financial product that provides a steady stream of income over time. This is separate from a retirement plan such as a 401k or IRAs. And then we have a required minimum distribution, which refers to the mandatory withdrawals that must be taken from certain retirement accounts once you reach a specific age. And then last thing I want to talk about in this section is that long-term care insurance helps cover the cost of services that aren't typically included in standard health insurance. This includes things like nursing home care, assisted living, or in-home care. All right, so as we think about aging and financial literacy, it is also important to consider end-of-life planning, especially when it comes to medical decisions and personal care preferences. So I will go into much more depth about these documents later on, but it is really important to just be aware of advanced directives, living wills, and DNRs. All right, so estate planning helps ensure that your property and assets are distributed according to your wishes. An estate refers to everything a person owns. That includes property, bank accounts, investments, and personal belongings. Essentially, it represents the total value of what you leave behind. A last will outlines how your assets should be distributed after your death. This is completely different from a living will, which outlines medical preferences only. And then a trust is a legal arrangement where a person called a trustee manages assets on behalf of a beneficiary. So, an example of this, when this would be used, is when a minor inherits from a parent, but they may not be old enough or capable of managing the asset. The trustee would manage it for them until they reach a certain age. And then there are also two distinct types of trust. So the first is a revocable living trust. That essentially means the trust can be updated or changed at whatever point throughout your life after it has been created. The irrevocable trust cannot be changed once it's created, and it's very hard to do so if there are updates to make. And then a beneficiary is just the person or the organization that receives your assets. Not everyone leaves in their will that their belongings go to a person. Some might donate all of their monetary things to like an organization or a charity. And then an executor is the person responsible for carrying out the instructions in a will. This includes managing the estate, paying all outstanding debts, and ensuring that assets are distributed correctly and in according to the person's will. And then the probate, like I said earlier, is just the process of validating a will and settling the estate. So now we're going to talk about the fun thing, taxes. So when planning for aging and retirement, it's important to understand how taxes and government benefits can affect financial security. So an estate tax and inheritance taxes are taxes that may apply when assets are transferred after someone passes away. An estate tax is paid from the estate itself before the assets are distributed, while the inheritance tax may be paid by the person who is receiving the assets after they have received it. So a step-up in basis is a tax rule that adjusts the value of an inherited asset to its market value um, at the time of the owner's death. For example, if someone purchased stock many, many years ago at a low price and it has since increased in value, the beneficiary may only own taxes on the gains that have occurred after they inherit that stock. And then Social Security benefits provide retirement income through a government program funded by payroll taxes. The amount a person receives depends on factors such as work history, earnings, and the age at which benefits begin. And lastly, we have Medicare and Medicaid, which are both government healthcare programs but serve very different purposes. Medicare is primarily age-based health insurance for adults age 65 and older, as well as some younger individuals who meet the ADA requirements for disability. It helps cover hospital visits, doctor appointments, and certain medical services. Medicaid, on the other hand, is income-based assistance. It supports individuals with limited financial resources and, in some cases, can cover the cost of long-term care. All right, so as our speaker last week discussed in greater depth, financial risk and protection are major concerns for older adults. Elder financial abuse refers to the illegal or improper use of an older adult's money, property, or assets. This abuse can come from strangers, caregivers, or even family members. Examples include stealing money, pressuring someone into changing legal documents, or misusing bank accounts. Scams and frauds include fake IRS calls, tech support scams, lottery scams, and phishing emails asking for personal information or payments. Scammers create a sense of urgency or fear to pressure victims into acting quickly. So, taking time to verify information and avoid sharing sensitive details can help prevent falling for those scams. Identity theft occurs when someone uses another person's personal information without permission. This can include social security numbers, bank account details, or credit card information. Criminals may use this information to open accounts, make purchases, or commit fraud in someone else's name. And then lastly, a credit freeze is a tool that helps restrict access to your credit report. This makes it harder for criminals to open new accounts in your name because the lenders cannot view the credit information without permission. All right, so now we're going to get into financial planning. So one of the most important things to keep track of is your money coming in and money going out each month. So start with your fixed income sources like Social Security, pensions, or annuities, as these can usually be predictable each month. And then look at your variable income, such as investments, or if you are still working or have a part-time job, something like that. Also, making sure you kind of take into account for inflation, as prices tend to go up, and you need to make sure you're aware of, you know, when you could potentially save money in areas that you might be missing out on. And then we have savings and assets. So it's important to have an inventory of all of your assets, including cash accounts, retirement accounts, and real estate. Know how the account is set up and who the beneficiaries are. Be mindful of which assets can quickly be converted to cash should an emergency arise. And most importantly, have everything organized for the fiduciary, whether that be yourself or someone else. All right, so long-term care is often the largest unexpected expense families face. Care needs can change over time and may include in-home care, assisted living, or nursing home care. Care is often paid for through personal savings, long-term care insurance, or the government via Medicaid. So this next slide shows a chart with typical long-term care cost ranges to help put those expenses into perspective. I just want to say that Louisiana has the most affordable long-term care on average at $54,105 annually. This is 28% less than the national average, so you can just imagine how expensive it is across other states. So for in-home aid, that's usually about 44,000 a year. As with assisted living, those are pretty comparable in cost. Now, nursing home care is closer to 73,000 a year, which can be a really big financial burden on someone who is not prepared. So, withdrawal strategies are all about how to turn your savings into income. As we've discussed, different types of retirement plans require you to withdraw a minimum distribution every so often. Being strategic about which accounts you draw from first can help you save on taxes. So, it's recommended that you draw from taxable accounts first, then tax deferred, and then finally tax free. All right, so it's important to have a contingency plan in place for when emergencies arise. Keeping an emergency fund can help cover sudden expenses without disrupting long-term plans. So making sure you understand what your insurance covers and have an updated power of attorney in place. And we recommend having a durable power of attorney over just a regular one. And then lastly, financial planning is just about turning assets into reliable income while you're preparing for uncertainty because no one knows what the future holds. All right. Okay, so according to the National Institute on Aging, advanced care planning is a process that enables individuals to make plans for their future health care, especially at end of life, in case they're unable to communicate their decisions. So, some key elements in advanced care planning include reflecting on your personal values and wishes, documenting those wishes in an advance directive, and appointing a proxy or a decision maker to ensure that your wishes are honored. So, some important terms before we get started in this section is that patient autonomy is the right of patients to make informed decisions about their care, including the refusal of treatment. And then end of life care addresses ethical issues around life-sustaining treatments and decisions at the end of life. Healthcare disparities are differences in access to or quality of healthcare among different groups of people. And lastly, healthcare providers are required to inform patients of their rights. So now that we have kind of covered some of the basics, we're going to dive into how advanced directives came to be. So, the Patient Self-Determination Act, also known as PSDA, is a federal law that was enacted to ensure patients are informed of their rights regarding decision-making in their health care. It mandates that healthcare institutions such as hospitals, nursing homes, and other providers inform patients of their right to make their own healthcare decisions, accept or refuse medical treatment, and create advanced directives. The PSDA was included as part of the Omnibus Budget Reconciliation Act of 1990, which was a comprehensive piece of legislation addressing various aspects of the Medicare and Medicaid programs. The act aims to empower patients to take an active role in their healthcare decisions and ensure that healthcare providers respect those decisions, including end-of-life care choices. In the years leading up to 1990, several cases emerged where individuals were kept on life support for extended periods of time, sometimes years, without a clear decision regarding their wishes. So these cases raised questions about individual autonomy, especially when it came to whether people should have the right to refuse life-sustaining treatments. So one case in particular I want to touch on is Nancy Cruzan. She was one of those high-profile cases. In 1983, Nancy was in a car accident that left her in a persistent vegetative state. As she was unable to communicate her wishes, she was kept on life support for 7 years. In 1990, the Supreme Court ruled in a 7-2 that clear and convincing evidence was required before withdrawing life support. After friends confirmed Nancy's opposition to such treatment, the feeding tube was removed and she soon passed away. The case highlights the importance of advance directives and the right to refuse medical treatment. And just 1 year later, in 1991, Louisiana became the first state to establish a registry for advance directives. This registry is essentially an online database to store documents for easy access by healthcare providers. And key components of this is, informing patients of their right to make decisions and educating both the patients and staff of healthcare facilities on decision-making rights and advanced directive procedures. All right, so Law Post, as we kind of call it, stands for Louisiana Physician Orders for Scope of Treatment. So in 2010, Louisiana passed this, and this law was designed to improve end-of-life care and ensure that patients' wishes are not only heard but honored. Law Post provides clear guidance for healthcare professionals, families, and patients about what kind of treatment should or should not be given when someone is facing a serious illness or nearing the end of their life. It is essentially a set of portable medical orders that go with the patient wherever they go, whether it's in a hospital, a nursing home, or even in an emergency situation. Louisiana's early adoption of um, advanced directives and the creation of law posts have set a powerful precedent for improving end-of-life care. And then now we're going to look at what distinguishes law posts from a general advanced directive. So, the purpose of having a law post is to guide medical treatment decisions for seriously ill patients, and it is only available for patients with life-limiting illnesses. So, this could be like terminal cancer, COPD, something severe like that. Now, an advanced directive is to guide healthcare decisions if you become unable to communicate. This can be available for anyone 18 years of age or older, regardless of your health status. And then this is just kind of what Law Post looks like. The document, it has like whether you want CPR, what medical interventions you would like to have, um, and just all the things that you would or would not want are in this document. All right, so an advance directive is any legal form guiding future medical care. That includes living wills, power of attorneys, do not resuscitate orders, and organ and tissue donation. So, a living will is a document that outlines end-of-life treatment and medical preferences. Some treatments include ventilation, feeding tubes, and CPR. So, an example for you, say a patient diagnosed with COPD is nearing the end of life. They may refuse intubation but still request oxygen based on their preferences for comfort versus life-extending measures. And then this is what the living will in Louisiana looks like. You just say whether you want CPR or not, any type of intervention you do or do not want based on comfort or treatment. And then, there we go. All right, so now we're going to go to power of attorneys. So I want to point out a few terms here. When I say agent, that just refers to the person who will be making decisions for someone else if incapacitated. And then the principal is the person these decisions are being made on behalf of. So essentially, the agent makes decisions for the principal. So the general power of attorney terminates if the principal becomes incapacitated, which is why you don't see that anywhere on this chart. So we're going to discuss the durable power of attorney first. So the durable power of attorney can make medical, financial, and personal decisions on your behalf. This can be as broad or as limited as the principal decides. And it can be used when the principal is fully functioning or incapacitated. Now, the medical power of attorney can make medical decisions only on your behalf. This person is sometimes known as the healthcare proxy. They are limited to healthcare decisions, including treatment choices, medical procedures, and end-of-life care. This goes into effect only when the principal is incapacitated. So if you have both a durable and a medical power of attorney, they do not have to be the same person. If you have a separate medical power of attorney, the durable power of attorney will not make medical decisions on your behalf, just financial and personal. Now, here is what a power for healthcare decisions looks like. Notice that you can list more than one person in the event that your first choice cannot make those decisions, dies, or separated from you. Because sometimes these documents aren't kept as up to date as they should be, and maybe your first choice is unable to make those decisions for whatever reason, and they next go to your second and then third. So, do not resuscitate orders are commonly known as DNRs. So, a DNR is an advanced directive that instructs healthcare providers to withhold life-saving measures if a patient's heart or their breathing stops. This refers specifically to the decision to reject life-sustaining interventions, including cardiopulmonary resuscitation and electrical cardioversion. So the document basically states that if the patient stops breathing or their heart stops beating, to let them die and do not attempt to resuscitate. And this is what a DNR document looks like. So why do we need all of these documents? So autonomy refers to a person's right and ability to make decisions about their own life without undue interference from others. This includes providing clients with all of the information they need to make an informed choice, respecting their privacy and confidentiality, and ensuring that clients are not pressured into decisions by others. That includes decisions by their family members who may want something different from them. So, while autonomy is a fundamental component of self-determination, self-determination includes the idea that people have the right to act on their choices and determine the direction they wish to go. So, it's our job as caretakers, as social workers, as anyone involved in the caretaking process that we support the goals of the person, empower them to make the decisions that they feel is best for them, and collaborate with them, not work against them. So balancing the respect for autonomy with the duty to act in, the person's best interest can lead to several ethical dilemmas. So the dilemma between autonomy and beneficence may lead to paternalism, where others assume they know what's best, overriding the patient's autonomy. So older adults, especially those with cognitive decline, are vulnerable to paternalism from family members, healthcare providers, or proxies. They often say things like, well, they don't know what they want because they can't remember, and then decisions are just made for them without even including them in the decision making. Older adults may be pressured into medical decisions without full understanding, which is a form of elder abuse. Unfortunately, the existing statutory system fails to adequately address the needs of elder abuse victims. Additionally, HIPAA regulations do not address whether healthcare providers can override an authorized proxy in cases of suspected abuse. So, this means if your healthcare proxy is abusing their power or taking advantage of you in a compromised state, no one can step in. The only person who can override a healthcare proxy is the principal or the person who made the document. And you cannot do that if you are deemed incapacitated or unable to consent. So, in situations where an advance directive would be used, emotions are high and people may prioritize their own wishes over the person these decisions are being made for. An example would be keeping the patient on life support if the family members' friends are not ready to let them go. Another example would be refusing life-saving medicine so that the next of kin can receive their inheritance. So now we're going to talk a little bit about risk management. So the biggest risk is losing the ability to make sound decisions without a plan in place. So to manage this, make sure you have an updated plan in place and a durable power of attorney. It's important to do this before you or your loved one is unable to express their wishes. As previously stated, scams work by creating a fear of urgency. Make sure you slow down and get a second opinion before acting. And then your home or other properties pose risk, especially during natural disasters like we have here, hurricanes all the time. So being aware of this and having the proper insurance is important. And then outdated documents are just as risky as not having documents in place at all, because they essentially may be ineffective or go against your own wishes if you have nothing in place. So risk management is not about avoiding every problem, but it is about making sure no single problem can derail your entire plan. All right, so now we're going to talk about kind of how it all works together. So, a crisis occurs, financial and medical decisions need to be made. If you don't have a durable power of attorney, the court has to get involved to assign a power of attorney or a guardian to make these decisions, which is costly and can take up to months to happen. If there are no beneficiaries listed, the probate delays, so settling the estate can take an extremely long time. If there is no care plan, there's a rapid asset depletion to pay for all of the care that is being done to the patient. And then poor communication in general, nothing in place, no communication, that often leads to family conflict and high stress for everyone involved. So now we're going to look at the difference between when there's things that are planned versus unplanned situations. So when things are planned, you create a positive chain reaction. Low stress for everyone involved, faster transfer of assets when it matters most, and most importantly, clarity for your family and friends. This reduces confusion and conflict. So now compare that to what happens when there is no plan in place. Delays start to build, legal costs add up, and family and friends who should be supporting each other during this time can end up in conflict due to stress. And here's where it becomes very real. A medical crisis can instantly trigger major financial decisions. Without a durable power of attorney, those decisions are delayed, or even worse, pushed into the courts. Assets may be lost completely and decision making deferred to non-family. For example, if someone develops dementia without a durable power of attorney in place, the family often must pursue guardianship to make those decisions for them. That process is costly and time-consuming and can create all sorts of problems for the family. So, planning ahead creates ease, clarity, and protection, and not planning ahead creates stress, expense, and uncertainty. And that is all I have for you guys today. So, guess we'll open up the floor for any questions.
Thank you so much, Emma. That was a really good overview over all of the documents and kind of a good glossary of all of the terms that we hear whenever talking about advanced care planning. And sometimes if you're talking to people who have done this before, they start throwing all of these terms around and you don't know what the difference is between all of them or what they mean. So this was a really great explanation and good overview of all of those things. Thank you so much for sharing this. So we'll have a few minutes now for some folks to put some things in the chat if anybody has any questions. Um, I'll ask a few questions first. Emma, what do you think is like the best age to start doing any, even just starting as conversations about advanced care planning?
I would recommend age as soon as you become an adult, so 18. You never know what could happen. Like, for instance, I had a friend last week that died in a horrible car accident. And obviously, they're like 22. They had nothing in place, so their family had to deal with all the pieces and picking it up and planning a funeral and all of that stuff. So I would recommend having at least something in place or knowing what you want, pretty much as soon as you can.
I'm sorry to hear that. My goodness, yes, and especially whenever you have unexpected things like that that you can't even advance plan for, like
Mhm.
something like an illness or something where you at least have a trajectory of how much time you might have to plan and make those decisions. So, another question would be, when would you say, or what could be some reasons that you would need to revisit and change some of these things? So let's say you have your power of attorney in place, you have all of these things. When would you need to update it?
So, if you get married, you need to add your spouse to those things. If you have kids and you want to list them as beneficiaries, you can add them. People get divorced, spouses die, things like that, where you need to update who's in your documents.
Okay, great. Okay. Rachel just put in the chat, just clarification for Louisiana residents. In Louisiana, there is no separate probate process. The term succession is used for what most other states call probate, is what Rachel said. I will say, just from all of our presentations that we've had as a part of this series in past years. I know Louisiana does have a lot of its own
Mhm.
quirks when it comes to legal stuff, especially when passing assets from one person to another, especially after a death. And so, you know, that is one of the reasons why establishing a relationship with someone who knows exactly what they're talking about, like an elder law attorney or the like, that is so helpful to just make sure that you're making as informed of decisions as possible. So thank you, Rachel. Miss Donna asked, can we see our own database in La Poste?
I don't think so because of HIPAA violations. I think that's only for medical personnel to view.
So we have a couple of copies of La Postes here, and you can always request one of those like from your doctor should you be in the situation to where you could utilize a La Poste. I know, especially if your loved one lives within a care facility, you would provide them a copy of your La Poste from your doctor. Usually those are signed by two physicians. If I'm remembering that correctly. And those documents would like follow your loved one if they had to go to the hospital or if they were admitted to hospice, the hospice would kind of take over on those sides of things. So, um, yes, great question and definitely something to look further into if that is something that if you don't already have in place and are needing it. Okay, any other questions? Um, Emma,
Mm.
I'm curious, and I'm going to put you on the spot,
Okay.
but what are some of the things that you have either learned here at Alzheimer's
Mhm.
Services, um, that relate to advanced care
Mhm.
planning or during your time here in Charlie's Place at Alzheimer's Services? Where do you see that advanced care planning is important?
I guess when people call for like helplines and needing advice on, decisions that are upcoming for them, um, like we refer elder law attorneys, different things like that. Especially because some people call and have no power of attorney, none of that in place, and don't even know where to start.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think here we talk about advanced care planning all the time, because it goes hand in hand with having autonomy over your care, especially for people themselves who are diagnosed with dementia. If they are very early on within their journey, that is just another opportunity that we can share with others what our healthcare and financial and life choices, what our preferred decisions would be. So, very important. If someone wants to know more about advanced care planning,
Mhm.
where would you suggest that they go?
I would suggest that one, they call here at Alzheimer's Services because we can give them pretty much all these resources and documents and talk through the process with them. We also have lists of financial and elder law attorneys who can also help, guide in that process as well.
Yeah, great. And if somebody wanted a copy of the presentation today, how would they get that?
I can email it to you and you can send it out in the follow-up email.
Yeah, that's great. I'll definitely do that. And then, of course, it'll be posted on our YouTube channel as well. And well, good deal. Well, that brings us to the end of today's presentation. I so appreciate everybody attending today. And I hope to see y'all all again next Tuesday for our presentation, all about Medicare, which is going to be with the Les Ship office and Barbara Gooden over there, where we can I feel about Medicare, how Emma was talking about taxes and how she said, we're going to talk about fun taxes. I feel about Medicare in that way. Okay, everybody, thank you so much for joining us. See y'all next Tuesday.